January 22nd meeting of the Indian River County Commission will please come to order. We have the invocation by Rabbi Michael Berholz. Thank you, Michael, for coming, from Temple Beth Shalom. And Commissioner Joseph Flesher will do the pledge.
This morning I offer just very simple words about responsibility and how we take responsibility for the world around us. Architect of the world, author of her story, grant all of us the courage to participate in the world's design, to join in the unfolding of her story. How we all want to share in the responsibility of this world, to pray for her welfare, to care for her needs, to safeguard her treasures, and to work for her rectification. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol ha'olam v'imru. Amen. Maker of shalom, of wholeness, completeness, and peace in the high heavens. We are broken. We are not complete. Bring that sense of shalom to us, to all the residents of this county, to all the world, as together we say, Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Please join with me as we pledge allegiance to our great nation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Any additions, deletions to the agenda or emergency items? Proclamations and presentations. We have a really wonderful honor this morning. We'll help our citizens too, that I'd like to present. A plaque of recognition from the Department of Homeland Security, Federal Emergency Management Agency, for the Indian River County's participation and outstanding performance in the National Flood Insurance Program Community Rating System. And we're proud to receive this. And staff, would you please come forward? It's from FEMA. Indian River County successfully participates in the National Flood Insurance Program Community Rating System. The community has undertaken a series of meaningful activities to protect its citizens from losses caused by flooding and has significantly exceeded the requirements for NFIP participation and effective floodplain management. October 1, 2007. Congratulations to all of us.
Thank you, Commissioner Bowden. I'm Bob Keating. I'm County Community Development Director, and I'm here with Roland DuBois to receive that because the Community Development Department manages the county's National Flood Insurance Program and the Community Rating System Program. I do want to emphasize that this isn't just a recognition for the county, it's a cost savings to the residents in the county who have flood insurance. Because the county now is a level or rating 6 in the flood insurance program, that gives everyone who has flood insurance in the county a 5% discount for every point that we're lower than 10. So right now this is a 20% discount for everyone who has flood insurance in the county, and that's over 13,000 people. And the total savings, because we're a 6 community in the community rating system, is almost $1 million.
Yes.
I just want to emphasize that the reason that the county got the level 6 is work by a lot of departments in the county, besides community development and Roland, who functions as the community rating system coordinator for us. We had the emergency management department was real helpful in getting us the 6 rating. Public Works and almost all the divisions in Public Works did a lot of work, as well as County Library and the Building Division. So there are a lot of people that need to be acknowledged for getting us this 6 rating, and this 6 rating benefits all the people in the community who have flood insurance. And
you too, Bob. We thank you very much. And this is an annual discount rating every year.
Yes,
from here on out.
Yes.
Yes.
And, Madam Chair?
Yes.
This isn't something that people need to notify their insurance company of or anybody of to let them know they have that. This is automatic because of our geographic region.
Yes. Yes.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Report from the Impact Task Force by Chamber of Commerce and Treasure Coast Builders Association Impact Fee Report. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Can we have both names and address
Yes.
just for the record, please?
I'm Penny Chandler. I'm with the Indian River County Chamber of Commerce, and Beth Mitchell from the Sebastian River Area Chamber of Commerce. We're here to give a report from the Impact Fee Task Force. In June of 2007, the agenda for the County Board of Commissioners included a county memo to establish an Impact Fee Task Force. That day, the commissioners voted not to adopt a draft resolution to assemble an Impact Fee Committee under the auspices of the county, but instead asked that the Indian River County and Sebastian River Area Chambers would initiate and facilitate an Impact Fee Task Force. On July 30th, a diverse cross-section of people were identified and invited to participate on the Impact Fee Task Force being organized by the chambers. Groups and government officials receiving the letter of invitation to participate were asked to designate a person to serve as their representative. For the sake of continuity, those asked to serve were asked to select an individual who would be able to commit to the entire process so that we would have the same people and not alternates represented at all the meetings. The Impact Fee Task Force was not a sunshine law committee. It was anticipated that the task force would carry out its functions within a 6-month period of time. The first meeting took place on August 28th. The task force was asked to review and make recommendations to the County Commission in regard to the recent Impact Fee Report and recommendations that were set forth in the Duncan and Associates report as commissioned by the county. The Indian River County Community Development and Office and Duncan and Associates were also asked to work with the task force as additional resources. Task force members included many people that are here today. Maria Aguilar, who was the town manager representing the town of Orchid. In November, Maria was replaced by Deb Branwell, who is the interim town manager. Chris Bieber, representing commercial banking with Indian River National Bank. Andy Bowler, representing affordable housing with Habitat for Humanity. Bob Bradshaw, the town manager representing the town of Indian River Shores. Brian Curley, representing a commercial developer with PNS Properties. Sherry Fitzgerald, who is with the City of Vero Beach Planning Office and represents the City of Vero Beach. Bob Keating, Indian River County Community Development, representing Indian River County Government. Chip Landers, a residential broker representing the Realtors Association of Indian River County, is with the Professionals Realty. Dr. Dan McIntyre represented the Indian River County School Board. Chuck Meckling was the representative from the Indian River County Chamber of Commerce. Chuck is with Point West. Al Minner, the city manager, City of Sebastian. Honey Manus represented the Indian River County Neighborhood Association. Jason Nunemaker, the city manager, City of Fellsmere. Nancy Offit, representing the Treasure Coast Builders Association. Joe Paladin, representing the Growth Awareness Committee. Peter Robinson, representing the Indian River County Economic Development Council. Peter is with Laurel Homes. Terry Torres, commercial broker representing the Realtors Association, is with Bird Realty Group. Don Wright represented the Sebastian River Area Chamber of Commerce. Frank Watanabe, a certified traffic engineer, is employed by Neil Schaefer. Beth Mitchell from the Sebastian Chamber and myself facilitated, but were not voting members of the task force. Beth?
Initially, the meetings of the task force took place every other week, beginning on August 28th. We had a total of 11 meetings, and our final one was January 8th, 2008. During that time, the task force had presentations by a number of groups and individuals. Clancy Mullen from Duncan Associates, Bob Keating from Indian River Community Development. Jason Brown was there on behalf of the Budget Office, and Joe Baird joined us on a number of occasions. Wayne Kleinstiver also participated, and Kirk Sorensen, who's a financial economist with Government Solutions. The task force was broken into subcommittees that reviewed sections of the July 07 report from Duncan which was commissioned by the county. The subcommittees used whatever means appropriate and available to them to gather additional data where needed, analyze the findings, and develop a consensus for individual subcommittee recommendations. The task force reviewed and addressed the sections of the report that they believed to be most significant. Those sections addressed by the subcommittees were presented back to the full task force. Subcommittees addressed the following sections of the report: traffic, schools, parks, libraries, and law enforcement. The following sections of the report were not addressed: corrections, public buildings, solid waste, and fire rescue. An additional section was created by the task force entitled Quantifying the Impact. Additionally, we reviewed a number of articles, publications, and reports. Duncan and Associates report in their technical memorandum number 3 revised, the Indian River County Ordinance for impact fees, the impact fee update that was provided September 07, 2006 State of Florida Impact Fee Task Force report, the Indian River County Library Master Facilities Plan from 2005, a number of articles including the Wall Street Journal, A Rising Use of Impact Fees Rankles New Home Buyers by Chris Hudson, and a News Journal online news from West Volusia, Volusia Says No to Impact Fees by James Miller. Additionally, Indian River County Impact Fee Analysis, which was done by Kirk Sorensen. We were able to review the draft of that report. And finally, at our last meeting, we took a look at the St. Lucie County Impact Fee Ordinance 07-056, which is contemplating waiving impact fees for economic development.
After we accepted the job that you asked us to take in July, we did put together that diverse group of individuals. I want to, on behalf of Beth and I, thank and commend all the members of that group. They did an excellent job presenting their recommendations. They put in a lot of time and energy. Meetings were generally over 2 hours in length, and we averaged at least 2 meetings a month. Hundreds of volunteer man-hours went into the full task force and subcommittee meetings. And in the beginning, I think some of you will remember, I know, Commissioner Wheeler, when you were chair, I called back to you all after that meeting and asked exactly what we were supposed to do. So we had we knew what we were going to be doing and discussing and openly talking about the recommendations put forth in the Duncan report. The group, as we said, identified additional members that they thought Habitat for Humanity was an additional member that the group identified very early on in the first meeting. No others were identified to add to the task force. The process and procedure were discussed at every meeting, and a schedule discussed and distributed at the meetings and through the minutes. And again, we tried to keep you as updated as possible, sending you memos and so on about our progress. Although there were a variety of opinions, the group was respectful of one another, and all options were heard. Minutes were taken at each meeting. Those minutes were distributed to each task force member for their input and corrections. And while the minutes were not verbatim, they do provide a record of all the discussions, comments, concerns, ideas, and opinions from the task force members. At no time during the process was anyone contacted by the public or the media to attend any meetings, but at the same time, no one would have been turned away. On November 1st, we sent a letter to the Commission that we would complete a draft by the end of November and provide that draft to staff for their review and comment. That was sent to staff prior to the December holidays. We also noted in that letter that we anticipated that our final document with recommendations would be completed in December and a report made to the Commission in early January 08. We are pleased to say that we were able to remain on that schedule and provide that report to you. Task force members were pleased to have the opportunity to study the report and proud to serve you on this task force. On the task force, Many on the task force are inclined to maintain a meeting structure, perhaps quarterly or semi-annually, to remain updated on impact fee issues. They recognize that after all the meetings, after all the man-hours, and after all the time that went into it, that they probably would like to stay current on this issue. On behalf of the entire task force, we thank you for the opportunity to serve the county.
And finally, the results of all of that work. On the January 8th meeting, we asked all task force members to be there so they could participate in a final discussion, review the subcommittee recommendations, and come up with some recommendations for the county commissioners. So the first section was the different subcommittee reports. And the first subcommittee was transportation. The task force reviewed the recommendations from the subcommittee and recommends by a vote of 12-0 with 1 abstention to maintain the current rate for impact fees. The same results came about with schools, parks, and libraries. And let me just mention that early on in this process, we had a discussion about abstentions and who would vote and who wouldn't vote, and it was agreed by the task force that representatives from the municipalities could choose whether to vote or abstain from their vote. Additionally, while we were going through this process, we had one task member had another appointment and had to leave, so he didn't participate in the last 2 items. Under law enforcement, there was a lively discussion, and the ultimate motion was to accept the consultant's report and increase the fees accordingly. That vote passed 6-4 with 2 abstentions. Quantifying the impact, that vote passed 10-0 with 2 abstentions, and the motion was to look at not only the recommended increase of fees, but also the current impact fees and how they impact creation of jobs and the profitability of new commercial facilities. Before I get to the final recommendation, in the full packet that we provided to the county are all of the subcommittee reports. It includes their recommendations, it includes some discussion on methodology, and it also includes concerns about the economy. Our final recommendation is an overall recommendation, and that recommendation is that the County Commission should maintain the current rate for impact fees for all subcommittees. That motion passed 9-2 with 2 abstentions. That concludes our report. I'm sure there will be others that have comments and perhaps you have questions, but we wanted to relay the process to you.
Thank you very much, and I personally, along with every member of this commission, wishes to thank you and the 19 members of the committee for your hard work, your dedication, and your perseverance to stay on the time frame. That's very much appreciated. Any questions? Commissioner O'Brien, we'll start at your end, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have any specific questions at this time, but I see this now as the first step and now proceeding forward to schedule a public workshop where we can review this information and take additional comments and input from the general public at large and move forward with the more public workshop process.
Commissioner Flesher?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have nothing at this time.
Commissioner Davis?
Yes, ma'am. Just was the final recommendation as far as looking into the current impact fees on the creation of jobs and commercial facilities. Did y'all come up with a recommendation on that at all as far as what we should do to address that issue as far as how these impact fees very well could be stifling our ability to compete on a regional basis with other municipalities trying to lure corporations?
We had discussions, particularly about the St. Lucie proposed impact fee plan and I'm not sure I know what the status of that resolution is at this point. There were some discussions about whether or not you could specifically carve out impact fees as an economic incentive, and I know that there's some discussion about whether that's legal to do or not. There are other counties that are considering ways to either pay for those fees from a different source, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe Bob can go to that.
I don't need the full presentation right now, but whenever we have the workshop, that's certainly something that I see. It stuck out from the committee's recommendations. It's something that is ever so true right now. with the amount of jobs that are lacking in the community right now, and how single-dimensional, I suppose, is the best way to put our economic structure out there right now.
I would also urge the commissioners to take a look at Chris Bieber's memorandum. He addressed issues in terms of the cost of doing business in Indian River County, and he has a spreadsheet that gives you a number of different variables to show how additional impact fees would impact some of the projects, particularly from a commercial side.
And Chris has gotten my ear several times. He's done a fine job of letting it be known, and that's really one of the things when we move forward with the workshop. As Commissioner O'Brien said, it's one of the things that I'd like to focus on. If there's targeted industries that we'd like to get here, let's roll out the welcome mat for them, is what I'd like to see happen.
Commissioner Wheeler?
Well, first to follow up on Wesley, I think that economic development is important, but I think that we need to take more of an in-depth look than just the impact fees. I think it needs to be a broad spectrum, and there's committees set up now that are looking at that. And the other thing, and I appreciate all the hard work that everybody put in on this, and I too would like to move forward with workshops. The question I would have, I guess, of staff, we actually were supposed to review these, I guess, in 2008, which we are in now. So we did this early at a cost. And the only thing I'd like to say, too, is just to caution everyone that's listening to this, because it's a good report. They did a lot of work. But in my mind, the final question is, who's going to pay? And we need to realize, and clearly realize, that if we don't have impact fees or proper impact fees, whatever we have a shortfall in impact fees, the ad valorem property taxpayer is going to pick up on the other end, because the bills are going to have to be paid. So either the people developing, if they don't pay that fee, then somebody else is going to pay it. And we need to understand clearly that if we're going to split this, people need to know why and how we're doing it.
Thank you. Mr. Baird?
Yes, we have Nancy Offit from the Treasure Coast Builders. She wanted to speak. They did a report also, and so she's here today.
Thank you, Joe. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. For the record, my name is Nancy Offit. I reside in Vero Beach. I'm the Government Affairs Director for the Treasure Coast.
Is your mic on? Push.
And not quite so close, Nancy.
Push down the button on the bottom. A little green light should come on.
Okay. All right. Nancy Offit, Government Affairs Director, for the Treasure Coast Builders Association. Good morning. In addition to serving on the task force of the chambers, and they do deserve a real round of applause, they did a yeoman's job on this diverse committee. Wonderful job. The Treasure Coast Builders Association retained the services of Dr. Kirk Sorensen, a financial economist, who does analyze impact fee studies around the state and has considerable experience. He has represented us in Martin and St. Lucie County, city of Fort Pierce, Port St. Lucie, and I know he's appeared before you on previous studies in prior years. We asked Dr. Sorensen to use his expertise to analyze the Duncan report's methodology and some of its numbers, something that I personally don't have the expertise to do, and he does. Dr. Sorensen's preliminary observations in transportation were distributed to the task force and reviewed. As Penny and Beth said, the committee didn't have the benefit of this complete report, but that is submitted to you today. Dr. Sorensen's report largely supports the task force consensus, and that increasing impact fees will further stifle an already fragile economy. I know that there are some arguments some points that he's made in his report which disagree with the Duncan report, and I know that staff disagrees with some of his conclusions, as experts do in all the fields. But we do ask that you consider his report, take it under advisement, and as you do proceed with workshops, that information be considered a resource for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Sorensen's here, but I don't think that this is the forum for discussion. I believe the workshop will be the process.
Right. Anything for staff, commissioners?
Looking forward to the workshop.
Right. If you would please check all of our schedules as we move forward, and your schedules. It's a busy time coming up, but we do need to schedule some workshops and to proceed with a normal time frame Do you want to make a motion accepting this report, or just leave it as is?
I think we just need to schedule a workshop and move
All right.
forward. This is part of the entire process, the way I see
Yes,
it.
and public hearings. Thank you again very much. We appreciate it. Approval of the minutes, special call meeting, mining moratorium ordinance, January 7, 2008.
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Consent agenda. Would anyone like to pull anything from the consent agenda?
Madam Chair, I'd just like to pull K.
Anyone else? May I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. K.
Yes, Madam Chair, this is a as-built resolution and assessment roll for a paving and drainage project. And I just want to, it's good news. It came in lower than projected. And so those residents on 32nd Avenue will end up paying less for that paving project. And I just want to commend staff for bringing it in under the budget and move to approve.
Yes, and carry on.
Yeah.
Thank
More good news,
More good
please.
news,
Yeah.
yes. We've
Madam
got,
Chair, if I could under discussion of that, and we're finding that in several of the bids right now, and I can't help but think that this may be a good time for us to look at a lot of the expenditures that we have coming up on some of the projects and seeing about, right now it's clear to the time to buy asphalt and have it laid and pipe and such as that. So I don't want, and not to say that staff is or anything like that, but now we're getting some excellent results, Commissioner, out in Vero Lake Estates also, as well as the Phase 4, 5, 12. I mean, I could go right on down the list. It was about $4 million under the estimated budget, and we had 26 bidders, and all of them qualified, and we got the most responsive bid, which was, it was cheap. And I just want us to, if we have the opportunity with these projects that we know we've got to get done, let's strike while the iron's hot.
and I think this is a trend. I don't think this is an anomaly. I think it's going to get better.
Yeah.
Yes, we are trying to move projects because we're getting good prices right now. I know that you guys, and also people have to understand that a lot of these projects are paid out of money that cannot be used for operating, can only be used for capital. Like this building was built with optional sales tax, and a lot of people think it was built through ad valorem tax money. It was not. And optional sales tax can only be used for capital, not for salaries or for raises or things like that.
Thank you. May I have a motion?
I move to approve.
And it was seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Public items, public hearings. Public hearing to adopt an ordinance to designate an official county seal. Memorandum dated January 15, 2008, pages 101 to 103. Staff? Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioner. This is a public hearing to adopt a new center for the county seal. The county has an official seal. We believe it's been in place since 1925. Our current seal predates the new Florida law that requires that a new seal be adopted by ordinance. The current seal in the center has an elk head. Back in August of 2006, the board had given direction to go forward with processing an ordinance to change the center of the seal from the elk to the 3 grapefruit. That change would be consistent with the current county logo and also the county letterhead. I want to give you some background on the purpose of an official county seal. The clerk of court by statute is custodian of the seal, and the seal is used for 2 primary purposes. One, it is used on all official county documents where the chairman signs for the county, such as a contract, a plat, or a conveyance of land. In addition, the clerk uses the seal to authenticate copies of documents in his possession. The seal is used to authenticate each page as an original document. The seal is an embossed seal. There is no color. The current seal is a mechanical seal, and it's getting worn out and is awkward and inefficient to use. The clerk had asked the board to consider getting a mechanical seal which is a newer type of seal. It's essentially an electric seal. You put the piece of paper in and it stamps it. The cost of the electric embosser seal is about $750, plus the cost of the die for the artwork, which is about $350. The current mechanical seal is approximately $100, but we think there would be a cost involved in changing from the elk to the grapefruit, but we don't yet know that cost. We're thinking it would be about the $300. So this ordinance is before you today, consistent with board direction. We ask for board comment. We ask that you open the public hearing, take public comment, close the public hearing, and move the ordinance as presented.
Thank you very much. Any questions of staff before I open the public hearing? Commissioner?
Marion, just make sure I have the numbers correct. And if we just replace the existing mechanical seal with the same elk, it's about $100. And if we get a mechanical seal with new artwork, whatever that may be, would be about $400. And then the electric seal with the artwork is about $1,100. Is that?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Flesher? Commissioner?
Yes, ma'am. Just real quick, and I don't, maybe this would be one for our county administrator. Which committees would look at something like this if they were, as far as going through the process, as far as changing a seal, maybe from the Historical Resources Advisory Council? Have they had the opportunity to look at this yet or give a recommendation?
I don't think we've ever changed the seal, so this is...
No, I mean something along these lines as far as something of historical significance, like I would say the county seal would be relatively significant anyhow.
No, we did not ask them for their input on this matter, but...
This came from the clerk's office?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Commissioner?
No questions.
Thank you. We'll open the public hearing at this point. Anyone wish to speak to this item? Yes. Name and address, please, for the record.
Fred Mensing, 7580 129th Street in the Roseland area of Indian River County. Mailing address is actually Sebastian. I'm opposed to changing the seal. This county has a history, unfortunately, of doing away with its historic things, the county courthouse being one. The seal may be incorrect by today's standards, even back in 1925. Why an elk was picked is, something none of us can answer. It would be like changing the seal of the United States, changing the Declaration of Independence. It is a traditional fact thing for Indian River County has a seal. To take that seal and have it mounted in a new mechanical or electric stamping device is something that, we're looking at what, $800 difference, apparently going from electric to mechanical or something, but, changing, getting a new mounting for the existing seal or having a new seal cut like the old one, I think that there is a time that, today's practicality and tradition need to come in play, and I think that at this time the county would be wise with all the other changes to leave a few things traditional, the county seal being one. That's, the long and the short of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else like to speak to this item? Seeing none, I close the public hearing. I did have the history of this because I was not clear on it either, pulled up. And the record shows that periodically this question has come up through the 80s, through several commissions, and apparently it is, when we moved, Indian River County was part of St. Lucie County. And St. Lucie County's stamp was the elk. And apparently years ago, decades ago, there was no thought process put into it. It was just an automatic. Whatever the stamp was that they bought, it was, and it was an elk. There is no history of elk in this Treasure Coast area that I can find. So it must have been an off-the-shelf stamp. The chairman of the commission years ago asked this, and the commissioners looked into it, and from the historic point of view, and their conclusion was probably when we ventured off into our own county, we just took the seal with us. So it is time now to order a new seal because of the use of the seal. It's worn, and you can see that the stamp does not come out clearly. So we need a new seal. Is it appropriate to keep the elk that none of us know anything about? Or would you like to change to something more appropriate? It was put before a commission that I served on, and Mr. Wheeler served on, and Mr. Davis served on. I think Art Newberger was chairman at the time, and it was a 4-1 vote, and that's why we're at this process. This is part of the process to continue on. And so we've had a public hearing, and we've had input, and I've looked into the history. Has anyone else looked into the history or could add or detract from what I have found?
Madam Chair.
Let's have Mr. Davis first, please.
Well, Madam Chair, I've been opposed to changing the seal. And when I say change the seal, I understand that they're going to
the look of the seal.
Yes, absolutely. To me, just the sheer fact that maybe there is no elk other than in somebody's freezer in Indian River County has very little bearing on it to me. The way I look at this is that it has served the symbol and the emblem has served the county well, and it has historical significance of that, simply, if nothing else, other than the fact that it was a part of St. Lucie County whenever we created our own county back in 1925. I understand Mr. Barton needed to maybe update to get an electric or whatever the clerk's office needs to do. I understand that, and I understand it does wear. But as far as changing it to grapefruit, I would. And believe me, I understand the significance of the grapefruit in the industry, and I'm not saying that it'll be here forever, but I don't know. It would be one of those things that I would not be proud to say that I was on the commission at the time we changed the seal of Indian River County that has served us well since 1925.
Can I ask you just a personal question? Are you emotionally attached to the seal?
Yeah, I am emotionally attached to history. Yes, ma'am, I am.
Okay.
Being fourth generation in this county, it does mean a lot to me. Fourth. I've got 5 generations in this county. Yes, ma'am. And because of that, I see a lot of changes. Some of them are not for the best, and I just don't think this is either.
Okay. Commissioner Flesher?
Madam Chair, thank you. Just a few points. I am not emotionally attached to the elk. However, it is part of our history, our culture. 2 items that happen by intent or by accident, and it appears that the history of the elk might have occurred by accident. Nonetheless, it's served us well for 82 to 83 years, and I believe that the appearance of the seal on documents, the significance of the seal is affixed itself, and I see no reason to change that. We are not in robust economic times, and I believe that we're searching to spend additional monies that we do not need to spend on. I'd be happy to revisit this in the future when we do have those robust economic times, but at this point where we have been suffering some budget cuts, I don't believe that it's the appropriate time to spend additional monies on changing the seal of the county.
Are you talking you don't want the mechanical part? I mean, we have to.
Any additional cost factors on changing the seal, I believe is frivolous. The seal itself exists, and I don't believe that we should be spending any additional money on artwork or anything that would be perceived as a luxury item as opposed to a needed item.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes. Commissioner Wheeler.
First, I think history should be interesting, and by changing the seal, we create more history. Secondly, I think that what I'm hearing, because our seal is wore out, whatever the cost of the seal is the cost, whether it's an elk or whether it's grapefruit. So there's no additional cost. It's going to cost so much to do the artwork, to have the seal, and do the mechanical, whether we use the elk or whether we use grapefruit or whatever. and I could be wrong, but we need to replace the seal.
Right.
And if we're going to replace it, now's the time to do it, because we've got to spend the money to either replace it or to rebuild the one we have. And secondly, the other thing is the seal. To me, the unofficial seal of Indian River County is the grapefruit. It's on all our trucks, it's on all our stationery, it's on our business cards, and that's what the seal of Indian River County is in the minds of probably 99.9% of the people that have an interest to look and see. And then next to last, I guess, is that I'm not a fourth generation Floridian, but I have lived here longer than Wesley. So,
Madam Chair.
And the other thing is I'd like to make a motion that we adopt an ordinance and change the seal to the 3 grapefruit.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay, thank you. We're going back down the row, please. Commissioner Flesher.
Madam Chair, it was pointed out, it did speak to Counselor on this, and it was well pointed out that there was an additional cost for the changing of the seal. Is that correct?
Yes, the move from a hand embosser to an electric embosser is approximately $750 plus the cost of the artwork.
But the artwork, would have to be for the elk or the grapefruit. We have to do new artwork, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So the major cost is moving from the $100 elk hand seal to the $750 approximately electric embosser, plus the cost of either the elk or the grapefruit with the electric embosser.
Commissioner O'Brien?
Yes, Madam Chair. It seems to me the biggest problem with the elk is it doesn't have a good story behind it. There's no, good historical reason. And I would task Commissioner Davis and his 4 generations to one night sitting around out there
I've got one right now.
at the campfire.
If it'll persuade your vote, I can make up a good one right now.
I'm sure somewhere in Commissioner Davis's history, somebody shot an elk somewhere that would apply to this.
And brought it home. Let me tell you how this wound up on the seal.
You'd have a good story to support the elk.
I can do that. I can do that. If I can have 5 minutes, I'll convince all of y'all.
I want to weigh in on this too, please. I'm not for modifying or changing history, period. But history is evolving, and I do believe that Commissioner Wheeler is right on this one, and I want to give him credit where credit is due.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
We have voted on this previous commission before, and it was agreed upon that we would go to the grapefruit. And I'm going to stick with my original vote, as I'm sure Commissioner Davis is going to stick with his.
Absolutely.
The significance of the grapefruit is that we are Indian River, and Indian River grapefruit is the finest grapefruit in the world. We're known for that all over this world. We have to be consistent. Sometimes you have to be brave enough to step up to the plate and say, we need to do this, and that's what I'm doing along with the rest of the commission. We need to be consistent with the message we send. And that's what I would like to do. We have on our trucks, on our emblem, on our logo, we have the grapefruit. We are Indian River County, and I would purport that it would be beneficial to have it on our official seal, the records of Indian River County. And I'm not afraid to make a change.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Madam Chair, I agree with everything you just said. The problem is the history of Indian River grapefruit was built with a seal made of an elk.
And that might have been a mistake.
Well, it got there successfully.
Well, I think that, if you could come up with a reason for the elk, I would absolutely support it. But there is no rhyme or reason to the elk. I have done the research, and I would like for it to be reflective of this community and this county.
And they don't even taste as good as grapefruit.
Just a few more comments, and then I'll go on ahead and then I'll hush and we'll move on for the vote.
Okay.
We do have a new commission, other than the one that was originally sitting here when we made that decision. So I am actually imploring my 2 fellow commissioners on the far end over there to consider leaving this alone. We had a city council in Sebastian that changed Fellsmere Road to Sebastian Boulevard. We are going to have other opportunities for other municipalities to make decisions on simple things that they might not mean much to a whole lot, but they do mean enough to the county to have it in place since its inception. And based on the things that, to me, no, on the surface, they're not significant, but the change of them, to me, is significant. And it's just based on that, I would urge Commissioner O'Brien and Commissioner Fletcher to join me in defeating this, and let's move forward with the original seal and let our clerk make the modern modifications necessary to meet his needs. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Commissioner Davis, you don't have to convince me. I think 83 years speaks for itself. And in addition, I do perceive an additional cost. I think it was again reiterated by council that there will be an additional cost if we are going to change the seal. Therefore, I do not support changing the county seal to a set of grapefruits. And I don't believe that that was the intent nor the suggestion by the previous sitting commission that it was to be changed to grapefruits.
It was. Oh, yes, it was. I've got the motion. Let me read it.
I believe there was a discussion on change.
Madam Chair, also.
No, we had a motion. I've closed the public hearing, but if there's after we finish, if there's no objection, I will entertain that we allow you to speak. Mr.
Brian.
No, I'm trying to get his eye.
Let me get my name tag here.
Would you like to weigh in again at this emotional
issue? A lot of people talked to me over the weekend about this, and the consensus was either put it out to a wide open contest, name the seal type thing, or just leave it as the elk. If Commissioner Davis can come up with a good elk story, then I'm all for keeping the elk then. And Wesley, I'll put it back on you and your 5 generations.
Okay.
Once upon a time, long time.
No, wait just a minute. I do, for Commissioner Fletcher, want to read into the record what actually did happen. Motion was made by Commissioner Davis, seconded by Commissioner Lowther, for discussion to leave the elk seal in place. Commissioner Davis felt we should try to hold onto our history as much as we could. Commissioner Lowther agreed and commented that in truth this could become one of those urban legends that in the next 30 to 40 years in Indian River County could be known as the Big Elk Country, and no one would know its origin. Chairman Newberger liked Commissioner Bowden's proposal for grapefruit images. The chairman called the question, and the board voted 2-3. Commissioners Newberger, Wheeler, and Bowden opposed to keep the elk. Motion failed. On motion by Commissioner Bowden, seconded by Commissioner Wheeler, the board voted 4-1. Commissioner Davis opposed to approve the use of grapefruit images for the county's new seal. The county's attorney's office should prepare an ordinance to adopt the change. This was August 22nd, 2006, and this is now, the county attorney's office has now prepared the ordinance. And if we're going to redo business all the time, then it's going to take us longer to do business. I'm just saying this was approved by a previous commission, so I want the record to be straight. Commissioner Wheeler?
Yeah, just 2 points. I'd like to point out that as I understand this, we need a new seal.
Yes.
So the cost of the new seal is the same whether it's an elk or whether it's a grapefruit, whether it's mechanical or whether it's manual. So depending on the cost here is going to be either manual or mechanical, and the artwork's going to be for the elk or whatever. The other thing is I would also submit that the only place in this entire county that the elk represents the seal of this county is where they emboss the papers by hand, which is inefficient. Everything you look at in this county, our chairs, our business cards, our letterheads, everything that goes out of here, our official seal in everybody's mind is the grapefruit, and it's been like that for years. So I think that, and I have trouble believing we're spending this much time on it.
And
Commissioner Wheeler, if we purchase another hand seal, it will be approximately $100 with the elk. The movement to the newer, easier to use electric embosser is the approximately $750 plus the approximately $350 for the artwork. It's the same cost for the artwork, whether it's the elk
or the grapefruit?
And I think generally the consensus is that we need to go to the new level of the seal. That's not the question. It's Commissioner Davis does not mind that. It's the changing from the elk to, and I can't believe we've done this either, but I am a level thinker. I want to be consistent, and so therefore I think it is appropriate to officially do what we've all been doing for decades, is to, have the Indian River grapefruit. Do we have a motion?
Yes.
We have a second. Any further discussion? I do have somebody that wants to speak from the audience. They missed the public hearing part and didn't speak up. What is your pleasure on this?
I have no objection.
No objection.
Madam
Okay.
Chair, I have no objections, but I would just like to thank you for reading off the minutes, and I appreciate that. I do stand corrected that it was determined that we should yield towards the grapefruits. However, I continually do not support that.
Okay, thank you. I just want you to know I did do my homework. Yes.
As well you should.
Do the homework to let you know.
Good morning. Margo Sednikovic, 7575 First Street Southwest. I do not have any history in Indian River County, but I do wish to build one here, hopefully, as many generations as Commissioner Wesley has. Changing history is very scary. The reason for that, because if we will not keep something strong in our county, in our country, if it is that easy to change something what was built in 1925 today, what else we can change in this, city? There is another thing is that there's new commissioners will be in this county maybe several years later. They will come back and they will take a look again, and there is a chance they will change back to what it was from 1925 because somebody will have a different opinion. We do have citrus here, but we're not Orange County, we're not Grapefruit County, we're Indian River County. So this is where, it's a little bit different. But again, change, it doesn't make us look strong. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do want to follow up on that. We're not changing history. Whatever we do today is from this point on. History is history. We don't change history. Okay. We've hashed this out forever.
So we're not changing history. You want to make history.
Yes. There's a big difference.
Please, I'm dying of curiosity here.
Do we want to, I've heard conversation of Commissioner Davis to task him with coming up with a story or with a history.
I've got one you can believe. But we've beat this to death. I think it's clear where I am to everybody else except for Commissioner O'Brien.
And the pressure's on Peter.
And I don't mean to put the pressure on him, but I don't know. I don't suppose it's appropriate for me to offer any gifts at this point, is there?
Elk meat?
Elk meat or...
Okay, all those...
One last question,
Okay.
County Administrator Joe. There's nothing that prevents us from using the grapefruit as a logo as we have been. Is that correct?
No.
Not that I'm aware of. Legally, I don't think there is.
We've been using it for history.
Yes, we've been using
Forever.
Yeah, we're using it now, so there's nothing stopping us from using that.
No, the elk was our history.
Cheaper to
I
change
think
the elk
what
than it is our logo.
what Commissioner O'Brien's asking, is there anything precluding our seal from being different than our logo?
Copyright?
I don't believe that we even have this copyrighted. I may be wrong, but I don't even think we've got a copyright on the seal behind us.
There are two different things. The official county seal is just that. Your logo is separate.
We already have.
Okay.
So they could be different,
Yes,
Well, they are different.
they are different.
and they still may very well be.
And isn't that unique?
May I say one thing?
Yes.
Peter said he had a lot of comments on this, but I would venture to say if you showed 100 people or 1,000 people in this county a picture of the seal like this or a picture of the elk, almost all of them would think this was our seal, not the elk.
Well, and we could
Change that to an elk.
we could change this to an elk,
I don't think that's under discussion.
but we could discuss.
That's a very good point of order there, Commissioner Fletcher.
Okay, I'm going to call the question, please. Repeat the motion so everybody's not confused. Please repeat the motion.
To adopt an ordinance to change our seal to the grapefruit rather than the elk.
And we had a second from Commissioner
Bowden.
No.
O'Brien.
I seconded it
O'Brien,
for
thank
discussion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, history is made. We've changed the vote from the last commission. It is now.
I'd like to make a
3.
motion that we change our seal to an elk.
Well, I won't give you a second on that.
I don't think that was publicly noticed.
Is there any, Madam Chair, the question of legal, Mr. Collins, to leave things alone, does that take the act of Congress, a public hearing and everything else?
To leave things alone? No.
Yes, thank you.
Do we
Well,
want to
now,
give the,
wait a minute.
clerk
We do want-
direction to purchase a new seal?
Yeah, I move we give the clerk direction to purchase the electric seal
Second.
as an elk.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. To be consistent.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Brien, Commissioner Flesher.
Okay, moving along.
Thank God.
Okay.
Thank you.
And thank you, staff, very much for your indulgence this morning. County Administrators Matters, 2008 American Cancer Society Citrus Gala and Cattle Barons Ball. Memorandum dated January 16, 2008, 104.
Yes, I have been approached by some members that are on the gala committee. Vince Parentella approached me and asked if we would furnish the lights, if we could furnish the lights at no cost for their gala on March 1st for the cancer drive. And I don't have the authority to waive that fee. I have no problem. I think it's a big fundraiser for local people, and it helps a very good cause. They need to have 4 or 5 of our light generators out there, and they also need a stage. I have, in the cases of emergency, I have furnished them free because of safety reasons in the past, only when it's an emergency. We do it for the Frog Leg Festival. I have done it for another event, like I said, due to public safety, and it's up to the board. But
I think this would be appropriate since we have done it before.
Most certainly.
Move a donation of the light carts.
I'll second that, Madam Chair, and I'd like to just kind of...
And the stage also, I think they asked too.
Yes. Any discussion?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. This is the American Cancer Society Citrus and Cattle Barons Gala. It's a very big event. They moved out of the center of the Vero Beach Museum of Art, or excuse me, the Center for the Arts, and they've changed the name on me. But
was that history?
That was history, yes. But this is. They have a live auction. They have just a big time, and it's going to be in a new area this year, kind of in the central part of the county, outdoors under that big pavilion. So this is just one of the many things that I think that as a county we have the opportunity to allow some organizations to raise money for a good cause and create that community spirit that's so important. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Yes.
And I'm very happy that they have outsized their location, and we could be a part of facilitating
good point.
their needs.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Utilities, change order number 3 to IRC, contract 2006-012 with Poole and Kent Company of Florida, Inc. for the expansion of North RO plant. Memorandum dated January 15, 2008, pages 105 to 108.
Move approval.
We have a second? We have a second?
Second.
For discussion. Staff, do you want to say anything about this? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Amendment number 2 to the work order number 2 with staff Camp Dressler and McKee, Inc. for engineering services to relocate the biosolids dewatering facility to the county landfill site. Memorandum dated January 14, 2008, pages 109 to 118.
Move approval.
Have a second?
I have a question.
I have a question.
Second for discussion?
Second for discussion, ma'am.
Yes. Commissioner Davis?
Yes, Mr. Olson. In this decision, CDM is going to be just redesigning or doing a feasibility of relocation. This isn't tying us in with any of the Synagro potential. I'm not ready to make that decision yet, is what I'm getting at. I'm just making sure this does not obligate us as a commission or as a county to that.
For the record, Eric Olson, Director of Utilities. This has no bearing on who ultimately operates the facility. It's is strictly the nuts and bolts, the construction of the facility itself.
Commissioner O'Brien?
Yes. Eric, was it Camp Dresser or the county that selected the original site?
The county selected the original site based on convenience. The idea was to try to put it in the middle, as much as away from the world as we could on this thing, the perception being obviously odors and this sort of thing. Unfortunately, we've made some changes, or maybe fortunately for the part of the county, because we've made some changes both in the design of the landfill in terms of, one, instead of moving north adjacent to Oslo Road, we made that change, which reconstructed the landfill itself. Secondarily, we made a decision to build a unified hill, if you will, which contains the construction and demolition and our Class 1. So when we did this, it reconfigured the base of the landfill itself. So we then said, well, wait a minute, let's not throw the baby out with the wash, so to speak, on this thing and lose airspace. Let's move it over a little bit and reconstruct it in such a way that we can save the airspace, save a little bit of money on the long term, and no harm, no foul like that.
Okay. What is immediately north of the proposed location? Is that the...
Well, immediately north of where we're talking about right now is really C5 Canal. Beyond that, as you go further north into this system, is property is owned by the Solid Waste Disposal District and the Ocean Spray plant itself. So there isn't much up there right now.
Okay, I guess what I'm trying to get to, is it moving the biosolids closer to the Ocean Spray plant?
It is, but we're talking about 1,500 feet. We're not talking about a lot of distance in the process. The Ocean Spray plant is to the northeast of that, adjacent to 74th and Oslo. So realistically, it's still going to be contained within the landfill itself. You won't see it visually. There's no way you'll physically see it. We feel like the changes that we added as far as odor control aren't going to be a problem as far as that sort of thing goes.
All right, so you don't think there'll be any impact on a future tenant of the...
No, and I think we took a lot of care in the design of the facility in this sense, because what we wanted to make sure is we didn't repeat the past, talking about history, if you will, in this sense, as what we saw up in 49th on Gifford like that. So the design of this thing takes careful consideration, odor control, visual aesthetics. It also puts it into a situation where the users, sludge haulers and this sort of thing have a much more user-friendly operation within the landfill than what it perhaps would have been originally.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
And along the, Commissioner Bryan, to answer your questions about some of the smell, the 49th Street it's quite frankly, we probably wouldn't have had the issue with it if it were in the situation or up to the level that it is right now. But we have the opportunity to take advantage of building a state-of-the-art facility. It does need to be moved as more and more residential communities come along in that residential area. And I was there last couple of weeks, and they really have knocked the smell down substantially. So I don't believe it'll be an issue, especially on an industrial facility like Ocean Spray.
The new facility takes it 3 steps beyond what you've seen out there now.
Yes, which is not bad.
Yeah,
right now.
Very appropriate.
Yes.
Any further questions? Okay, we have a motion. And
we do. Do we have a motion?
Second?
Yes.
Yes,
Was that on the other one? Do we have a motion on this?
I made a motion to
Yes,
approve it.
thank you very much, Commissioner Davis.
And
you want to know the history?
Yeah.
I was just waiting on the chair to restate the motion. This should be.
No, I'm not restating the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you very much. But now it's your turn, Commissioner Davis. Modify Resolution 2003-125, establish an Agriculture Advisory Committee. Memorandum dated January 15, 2008, 119 to 122.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, this was brought to my attention that the Agriculture Advisory Committee's chairman has been asked by the members of the committee just to stay in that position. That's I don't want to say a violation of our ordinance as much as we would need a suspension of the resolution for that particular committee in order to accommodate that. I didn't think that was inappropriate in light of the mining issues that we're looking at, as well as many of the water issues, some of the transfer development rights and continuity there would be good. More importantly, he was the only one that said he'd continue to do it. So.
That. We're very grateful.
I'll move that we suspend that for 1 year.
Thank you, sir.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Commissioner O'Brien, Sea Turtle Lighting Workshop and Sea Grape Giveaway. Memorandum dated January 14, 2008, 123 to 126.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. This is just kind of a public announcement. There is a sea turtle lighting workshop. It's going to be February 2nd. This is very important to all of our property owners along the beach with sea turtle nesting season coming up. This is where you'll understand all the ordinances and rules to make sure your lights that are facing the ocean are properly orientated and don't interrupt with the sea turtle nesting. As part of that, they are going to have a giveaway of sea grape plants. The sea grape plants are very good to block the light and will be given away to property owners there as well. Also, Roland DeBlois has sent notices of this to 550 oceanfront property owners, and it is on our homepage on our website. So just for public information, if you live along the beach, please attend this workshop and learn about the sea turtle lighting.
Thank you very much. Number 14, special districts and boards. We have the solid waste disposal district, work order number 14, and I'm going to have to put on my glasses. Thank you very much. The Geosyntech Consultancy for engineering services with 2008 compliance, monitoring, and general technical assistance. Memorandum dated January 14, 2008, 127 to 144. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Himanshu Mehta, Indian River County Solid Waste Disposal District. This work order for Geosyntech mainly consists of what we do on an annual basis. We have two semi-annual reports for groundwater sampling at the landfill, all the wells that we have around the landfill facility. So the sampling and the reporting of that is what's included here. Also, we operate the flare out there. It does involve some Title V air permitting compliance reports. So this task is to cover those services. This is in line with what we did last year, and the costs are reasonable, and recommend your approval.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? We have a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
It passes 5-0. Thank you. Solid Waste Disposal District Customer Convenience Centers, memorandum dated January 14, 2008, 145 to 156.
For the record, Eric Olson, Director of Utilities. What we're bringing here before you today is a consideration for a couple of options. I think as the county administrator and budget staff has talked about since really this time last year, with the changing tax bases and the proposed legislative changes that are coming forth here this month, the challenge has been to try to look at all the elements within the budgeting process and determine if, in fact, there's opportunities to think a little bit differently and this sort of thing. Within that context, we were charged to go ahead and put together a budget associated with the convenience centers. As the Commission may recall, we do have 5 convenience centers located throughout the county. In the normal process of the assessments that each of the persons within the county pay, you have that right to use the convenience centers. We're currently in process of making changes. We'll be shortly going to bid in Fellsmere, revitalizing the Fellsmere Convenience Center. I think those that have seen that pretty much recognize its time. Likewise, we're getting ready to modify the Oslo Convenience Center on Old South Dixie. It's pretty rough shape as it is right this minute. But the convenience centers and the staff that operate the convenience centers do a variety of things, and it's important to recognize that the function of the process of operating the convenience centers transitions beyond the convenience centers, but it also takes into consideration functions that are maybe countywide sponsored, road cleanups. We also work with the various departments in terms of cleaning and that sort of thing. So what we're bringing the Commission today is a recapitulation of what consists of the budget to operate the convenience centers. It's a combination of many items in addition to salaries and personnel. As I mentioned within the Commission item, there are 23 people that are directly assigned to the operation of the convenience centers. And one of the options that we bring to you today is to consider the same process of operation, and that is that we continue with the current staffing, although the commitment with the new solid waste manager, Himanshu Mehta, is to continue looking at opportunities to save some monies. But the second option that we are seeking guidance on is really whether to consider the possibility of going to bid and seeing, if you will, if the private market can operate more effectively, more efficiently, and bring to the board the results of such a thing. So in conclusion, we're seeking guidance, looking at two options, one of which is to continue the current course of action. Secondarily is to go to bid and seek private bids to operate the facilities. And as I point out in the item, commission item, it will be important that whoever, if in fact the decision is made to go to bid, it is very important that we be in a position to be able to acknowledge that the services would be no less than what the community sees today. So.
Not only no less, should be more, so we should get a better bang for the buck.
Madam Chair.
Yes,
Commissioners, we're going to be looking at a lot of areas, unfortunately, due to the current economic environment we're in. We're going to have to look at more areas in which we'll look at privatizing, outsourcing, doing business different, services, and this is just the beginning. We have had a reduction in our sales tax revenue of 15%. We think our tax roll is going to be down at least 15%. Our building department's down 40%, and I could go on and on. We can't obviously keep going the way we are. It's not a nice thing. It's not a positive thing, but it's something that we have to face and handle properly. We owe it to the taxpayers. We owe it to the residents, and we're going to have to be proactive. You've all seen in the bulletins. We're not alone. Just about every county and city in the state's in the same predicament, and we're having to make big changes and reduce government spending, and that's where we are today. And along with the economic environment, it definitely is not an easy thing.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Baird and Mr. Olson. You know, there's not a commissioner up here that's not in favor of saving money, so that's a given. We owe it to the taxpayers to look into every opportunity to be able to squeeze every dime we possibly can. The one thing, though, that I hear that's more of a reoccurring theme is, and I hear this from county employees and their taxpayers too. And what I would like to know, or what I'd like for us to make sure of, is as we move forward, the benchmarks at which we are comparing what they do versus what a private company may do. For example, as on the roll-offs, or versus the trailer style at the convenience centers. You know, for the figures to come from our budget office is appropriate. But for the figures to come from our budget office and then be disputed and not have some answers back from our budget office if they are disputed is inappropriate. And so I want to move forward with this. I don't have a problem with that, but I want to make sure that as we move forward with this, that I'd like to see some kind of recommendation from the Utility Advisory Committee on something like this. We've got committees in place to be able to bring us up to speed, to have a bottom up to top down, or however we want to call this movement, to save the taxpayers money. We need to be a part of that, but at the same time, this doesn't need to be an all one direction, one dimensional, one-sided approach, because the truth is going to come out. And the truth is what I'm after to make my decision on. So I just wanted to kind of say that publicly to make sure that we take advantage of every opportunity from the employees that work there. If there's opportunities for them to show us today how to save money, we should be doing that tomorrow versus waiting on this whole privatization debate to even start or end wherever it may wind up. So I just wanted to kind of go on record and state that we really ought to look into that right now also.
Well, you're saying we want a complete and fair comparison.
Absolutely.
Yes, and I think that's
absolutely
on the record.
We've laid our figures out right here, and we feel they're accurate. And if, you know, as we go through the process, we've done this before. I think we've had some very successful operations. Golf course maintenance, been very successful, reduced costs. It's still lower than it was 5 years ago. We've done at the landfill on the hill. We did it at the solid waste. We will definitely go over the figures. It is important to have service. You might actually have better service. You might have worse. We're going out to see what the numbers come back. We've set our numbers up ahead, but I most of the time, and I know I work for government, private industry can do it cheaper, and we And they actually pay our salaries, and we've got to remember the residents out there and the taxpayers, and we owe it to them to at least look. If the commission doesn't want me to start looking in areas, and you just please let me know, and I'll.
Was there a commissioner that said that?
No.
Okay. All right.
Commissioner.
Yes, I concur with everybody. We do need to take a look at this and get competitive bids just to make sure we're spending the taxpayers' money properly. But looking through this, most of these salaries for these workers are below the average salary for the county worker. So the people we're looking at here are the bottom tier as far as salaries, and I'm not sure how much more savings a private employer can bring in. Look at these salaries I'm looking at, it's not top heavy. I mean, this is really the bottom level. So when we get these bids, I want to make sure we're looking at, what salaries are they going to be paying the workers? Because, at these levels, you probably can't even afford to, keep your family right now, what we're paying some of these guys. And if somebody comes in with a lower salary, we're going to be putting people out of their homes. I want to know what benefits the company's going to pay, because if we have a county worker who's getting health care and they lose that health care, the taxpayer is going to have to pick that up through the public health department. And I want to know where the location of the parent company is, because if we're going to be sending money out of the county, local tax money that's leaving the county, I don't think that's appropriate either. So, and I'd like to see if the Teamsters would submit a proposal as well. Let them negotiate and submit a proposal if they can do it more efficiently and cost effective and pinpoint savings. And then we can sit down and look at it all. But we just have to be careful when we privatize these to make sure that we're not creating a problem somewhere else just by saving $1 here. If that dollar leaves the county and isn't spent locally, I don't think that's a good thing either. So
I think staff really understands that we want a fair and equal evaluation. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'm not a fond proponent of privatization. I have tremendous concern for the 23 families that may be impacted by even analyzing the possibility, even at this point. That's point number one. Secondly is I've had several discussions with Himanshu Mehta about recycling and what the vision is for the convenience centers, and quite frankly, he's working very hard with staff. I visited the staff at the facilities, and they're coming up with some ideas. So I think that they are open-minded, and I think that coupled with the fact that Commissioner O'Brien has clearly pointed out that the salaries are not the high-end salaries that we're discussing. Quite frankly, I don't know necessarily how much we can envision saving by having a private entity come in, most certainly being compelled to lowball a bid so they can get in the door, and then several years later, again, raising those cost factors, assumably and justified to raise the cost factor, and we would probably be in the same predicament, not even or even worse. So I do share those concerns, but the primary one is the 23 families. What we propose to do with those 23 families, which probably represents about 100 people in Indian River County.
Well, in the past, we've tried to place them. I will say that, especially like when we did the golf course, we placed just about every one of our maintenance workers and field workers are easier to place than building inspectors. We always have had a program where we tried to place them. This is not an easy issue. We try and place them, try and work with them. But if the board doesn't want to move forward, just tell me right now. I don't have a problem with that.
I don't believe that it's a fair analogy to bring up the golf course concession, because I don't believe that is a conventional privatization.
No, we did the golf course maintenance. It's outsourced. We did the golf course maintenance. That's what I was talking about, all the golf course maintenance. We did that probably over 5 years ago. And we haven't. We get a lot. In fact, we got we've got national awards on our golf course, how it's kept up. So that turned out very nice.
Commissioner Wheeler?
Well, there's been a lot of comments made, and I don't think that any of the comments can be addressed or any of the questions can be addressed without moving forward. And I think as Wesley suggested, and we all want a fair evaluation. We can't do that unless we do move forward, see what privatization costs, compare apples with apples and oranges with oranges, and grapefruit also.
And elk.
Yeah, and elk. But I think unless we look at it, we can sit here and spin our wheels all day long and talk about what if or what may be, but and pull on the heartstrings and et cetera. But without a comparison, we don't know. So I think we need to move ahead. We need to look and we need to find out what the costs are and the whole package. And I would hope, because I know that the county runs, I think, fairly efficiently, and I think we need to be competitive. Just because we're government doesn't mean we can't be competitive, and I think we can be. I know I've looked at some privatization when I was sheriff, and they couldn't beat what we were doing in a couple of areas over there, and we didn't privatize because of that. And so I think our employees are good employees, and I think they can be competitive, but we won't know unless we look. So my position would be that we move forward and look, and go through the process with the advisory committee and get the best bang we can for the buck, as Wesley said.
No, I think I said that.
Kind of emphasize a point, I brought up in there.
I gave you the idea.
With a reason. It's important that the services, whatever the process that's ultimately decided on, it's important that the services remain at least as good, if not better.
Correct.
And that's all across the board. It's just not what you see necessarily the most obvious places, be it Winter Beach or Fellsmere.
Commissioner Fletcher?
Thank you, Madam Chair. A question for Administrator Joe. Has any of these bids ever come in that were higher than what we were operating at as far as privatization or another alternative?
Let me tell you, the closest bid when we did the landfill hill, when we did the maintenance on the landfill, what we call on the hill, the bid was so close that it was just slightly lower than our cost, and I recommended we stay with our people and not go out. It was amazing. The commission at that time voted against me. So again, I was a budget director at the time, but the costs were so close at the time when we did it. We recommended staying with our employees because there was a slight savings, and we didn't think it was worth the risk. And the commission voted against to go outside, but it has been very good. It's worked out, and we haven't had problems. But there's been a couple of cases where, yes, when we went out for small bids, that it was cheaper for us to keep our staff inside. It's not always. It's not all. They don't all. We run a pretty efficient operation, but we still we need to look at it, and we are concerned about the employees. These are, I tell you, we are not entering easy times, and things are going to. I'm really very concerned about the next year. And you look at our revenue picture, we've got decisions we've never had to make before. I am very concerned.
So there are instances where we as a government have operated more economically efficient than the private sector.
Well, we've had bids that came in the one when we did what we call we did the landfill hill. We outsourced. We took bids. It was so close. They were just slightly under our costs. So I recommended that we don't go outside and we stay inside. However, the commission at that time that was sitting did not agree with me. They thought we should go outside and give private business an opportunity.
Commissioner Davis?
No, ma'am, I'm ready for the question. I think we've made it clear what we're looking for.
Commissioner O'Brien?
I'm ready to move forward.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I don't know if there's any more comments. I think.
Well, I'd like a motion and a second to get it on before.
I'll move that we move forward.
We have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. If we have any discussion from the audience, if there's no objection to the commission,
I have no objection.
I have no objections, Madam Chairman.
Objection.
Okay, we'll start over. We started with you last time. We'll start over here.
Ladies first.
Ruth Sullivan, Sebastian. I think all of you know how important this service is to the people in Sebastian. And I came this evening, or this morning rather, it's a little early, not sure exactly what you were proposing, because we don't want that closed under any circumstances. 50% of our community uses that transfer station on Roseland Road. Our former council members had at one point decided that they wanted to go to a mandatory pickup. They did let us vote on it, and it failed by 4-1. And all those council members were replaced at the next election. That's how strongly we felt about that transfer station. You're saying that if it goes to a private enterprise, that the service would remain the same. But, you know, my experience in government, I was in office for 14 years in Michigan, and we found that we bid out our garbage pickup, and at the end of the first contract, and we'd sold all of equipment, of course, stupidly, and the price then considerably went up. So that once you lock yourself in, you change all your employees someplace else, or unfortunately maybe they lose their jobs, it's very hard to go back to give a service that you've already taken away by the city. And so I'm hoping that you will continue the city operation. If it's not outrageously expensive, and I don't believe it is, I know that the service is excellent over there. I use it myself twice a week. And so we are very concerned that the service continues as it is, that you keep the city employees as they are, because they're giving good service for the money. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Madam Chair, if I could.
Fred Mansing, 7580 129th Street, Sebastian Post Office. Privatization needs to be looked at, but I think that you need to go out to have several citizens, several employees of the transfer stations, the drivers and so forth that work there, to sit down and go over the contract. This is the place that privatization fails, that, you know, we haven't covered all the bases. And the other risk to privatization that has not been discussed tonight or today is 3 years from now, what's to say whoever is doing it, we are out of equipment for doing the, taking it back over, and they decide to jack the price straight to the roof. Now we are hit with a bill of buying trucks and this and that and the other thing to take our property back. And I don't think, and I'm not trying to criticize any of staff, but the people that work there, they know of issues that you will never hear of. Some of us that, you know, use them see issues. I see issues that if some of the work rules were tightened up, it could definitely increase productivity and possibly reassign or some manpower, or is manpower attritioned out, not replace it if some of the work rules were changed. I am privy to having had a batch of that information given to me, and I hope I don't pronounce the gentleman's name, but Mr. Haihatsu, I guess, that took over from the previous director down there. But there are a lot of changes that I think could be made to economize what you are doing without diminishing service. And I am concerned, not the first or second year of a contract or the first contract, but the second or third one, that all of a sudden we don't get the whammy, or we've got to go bond issue to get equipment. And I'm asking, is this going to come to a public hearing before you make a final decision?
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. My name is Steve Myers. I'm a business agent with Teamsters Local 769 here in Vero Beach. We represent the blue-collar unit here at the county. I'd like to echo the statements of the previous lady. She pretty much said every talking point I jotted down as I was sitting in the audience, so I'd like to echo those back. But there's never a time to where a public sector employer should not be able to run more efficient than any private sector employer. You don't have to pay taxes. You're not in it for a profit. So any manager of a department that can't run that operation more efficient than private sector should not be there. It's that simple. I don't have a problem if you guys go out and solicit bids, but no different than the previous lady spoke of. You know, you may get a 1 or 2 year contract with numbers from an employer, a waste management or such, who may come in and lowball their figures the first 2 years to get in the door. And then after that, where are you? When your equipment's gone and then you decide, well, what a mistake we've made. Now we have to go backwards and now repurchase all of the equipment that we've sold at an auction or discount. So, I don't have a problem if you're going to go out, okay, but right now you have 23 employees who are on edge with the decision you're making, but I think you need to make it clear to the employees that it shouldn't be if somebody comes in at a lower bid that they're going to be out of their job, because somebody may come in at a lower bid than what you're doing now, but it's just on a temporary basis, and through the years your costs will guaranteed escalate. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any further discussion, Commissioner?
Steve, I'd just like to let you know we are going to look out for those 23 workers, and as I mentioned, I want to make sure if something comes in, there's benefits and where that money's going. So you're right. I think we do have to take a look just to make sure we are beating what the private sector can do. But just so they know, we will look at that real sharp and keep that in mind.
Thank you, Commissioner.
And I echo that. This is done periodically with the school system and with the municipalities just to get a baseline. So, yes, would you like to speak?
Tom Pico, 1268 Bevan Drive. I am one of those 23 employees. We are making some changes down there, and we finally have somebody who's on our side, Mr. our director down there. And you need to give us a chance to make these changes. We're trying to make more money for the county, but somewhere along the line, it seems like that someone is holding our hands, tying us back. So we would like to, give us this opportunity to make these changes. And it's going to take some time. And they are right about privatization. If you do that, when we sell all our equipment, which we have all new equipment right now, they will raise the prices and they will come back and we'll find out that it wasn't a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, Commissioner?
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to reiterate, this has absolutely nothing to do with closing down any of the convenience centers. Ms. Sullivan is exactly right. It does get used a lot. Seems like a lot more at the north end of the county. Maybe that's just because that's where I'm in line waiting to twice a week also. But in the Fellsmere area, the Roseland area, the Winter Beach area, those are extremely, I'm going to say popular, very useful, have a lot of utility to the residents there that do not have mandatory garbage collection. And then secondly, I think we're loud and clear on the direction on this. Let's evaluate it. I agree with everybody taking the opportunity to in the organization, in the entity right now, where some savings can be made. You're there every day. And that's where I wanted to start off the debate with this entire process is before we can go in and solicit bids, but also let's make it so that everybody actually agrees upon what it's currently costing us or what some changes in our current process to provide as good or better services is going to cost us next year. And that's really all I had to say about it.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to also mention we have contracts with recycling with private haulers in the county. We have I had solid waste put them on notice that we're going to also bid that. These are already private, but we're going to have them bid early on against other private entities, the haulers, to try and get the cost down to the public there. We are looking at everything at this point. It's just, and those are, we've got Waste Management and Harris, and we're going to go out for those. Also containers. We're going to open up the market on the container trucks for construction debris that's set in front of a house that's being constructed, things like that, to try and get more competitive bids for the public. Now, this does not eliminate any of our people's jobs. What it does is it's already under private, but we're seeing if we can't get better bids and try and save the community some money.
We have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Passes 4-1. Thank you. With Commissioner Flesher opposing. And seeing no other business, we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you.